In the name of the Mr. President Emmanuel Macron, the delegation of France gratefully acknowledges to the days to find a solution to the topic concerned. The delegation of France takes today the word to be very consistent with the circumstances in which we are in, facing to a responsibility historic. Indeed, the present General Assembly of the United Nations has an extraordinary significance in the middle of a problem. The United Nations is facing an unprecedented economic crisis. From now on, the delegations present will not be able to say that they didn't know it. These are high positions with multi-million-dollar salaries that do not have any concrete function, excessive pensions and indemnities, of billions spent on first-class air travel or luxury spending, of disproportionate investment in bureaucracy with respect to operations on the ground. The member states have an obligation to have accountability, transparency, participation, and inclusion because they represent vital embodiments. In the absence of transparency, can lead to corruption, where it steals funds from schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and other vital services. There are tens of millions of men and women who have lost their jobs, their homes, their savings, thousands of millions of human beings suffering from malnutrition, the hundreds of millions who do not have access to water, the energy, the medical care, to education, to those who fear for their future, for their children, to those who they have the impression that whatever they do, regardless of their efforts, the sacrifices they give, they can get out of the predicament. To all of them, the state must give them back their hope and give them an answer. France is the fifth largest contributor to the United Nations regular budget and to the peacekeeping operations budget. In addition, France proposed in 2013 a framework for vetoing mass atrocities in the form of a collective and voluntary commitment by permanent members by January 2018. 100 countries have already joined the political declaration presented by France and Mexico on this subject. In this way, France supports the vast reform project launched by the Secretary General Antonio Guterres to make the organization more effective in its action, more transparent in management, and more responsive in the response to crises. However, there are still things to be done to make the United Nations more effective and more democratic. The delegation of France proposed some solutions. Remove the status of permanent member of the Security Council and the right of veto. Although the veto has been used more than 265 times since 1945, France has not used its veto for more than 25 years. The solution is simply to abolish the status of permanent member of the Security Council and the right of veto to make the United Nations more effective and truly democratic in its functioning. Certainly, a tacit convention since the creation of the United Nations means that the countries with the right of veto can never have one of the nationals appointed Secretary General. With the removal of the veto, this will take it possible for the election. Today, France, joint initiative with Mexico, is supported by 100 countries. In the same spirit, the Code of the Conduct developed by the ACT Accountability, Coherence and Transparency Group with France support has also received a very large number of support. Second, they make the appointment of the Secretary General a true democratic election. So far, the Secretary General of the United Nations has been appointed, not elected, by the General Assembly on the proposal of the Security Council, which traditionally proposes only one name chosen at meeting in which the veto can be used. This process should therefore be made a real election by the General Assembly. This will have the advantage of following a real electoral campaign, relayed by the media around the world, which will make the world population more concerned, more interested by the election by the UN. Third, advocate UN action to ban tax havens, control large multinationals, make a counter TAFTA, and create an international tax of financial transactions. It is necessary, therefore, to ensure that the United Nations recovers from these economic and commercial powers in order to fight effectively against tax evasion. An international tax of financial transactions will solve would solve a large part of the economic and social problems of the countries. The United Nations, whose official remit extends to those subjects, in the appropriate institution to establish such a device. And fourth, provide the United Nations with more budget and more influence. Providing the United Nations with more influence and large budget and making it more democratic in operation is fundamental to enable it to effectively carry out this mission of peace and social progress among the world's citizens. France, a country of human rights, must work in this way, hand in hand with the countries of the South which push in this direction. Its image with these countries and on the international scene will be enhanced. The delegation present today have no choice. The duty as delegates is to take risk acting, because the greatest risk at the present will be that of not doing nothing, to let go by the force of the habits. The delegation is open for a dialogue with the other delegations in order to give a proper solution in this problematic. Topic 2. Palestine. The Arab-Israeli interstate conflict has its origin in the prolonged irresolution of the Palestine problem. The Palestinian question is termed, has its roots in the struggle between two national movements for control. On the same line, the issue of Palestine was raised for the first time before the General Assembly in 1945. In Resolution 181, the Assembly decided to divide Palestine in two states, one Arab and one Jewish, with a special international regime for Jerusalem. After the 1948 war, the Assembly, in its Resolution 145 of 1945, established the United Nations Conciliation Commission for Palestine to help the parties reach a definitive solution while reaffirming the rights of the parties, Palestinian refugees, open return, and restitution. The delegation of France shares with Israel a strong historical, cultural, and human ties. France was one of the first countries to recognize the new state and to establish diplomatic relations with it in 1945. For 65 years, it has defended Israel's right to exist, to live in security, and its full membership in the community to survey nations. The Franco-Israeli bilateral relationship is also nourished by the presence in Israel of an important French and Francophone community and the presence in France of the first Jewish community in Europe. For years, the position of France has been to recognize the Palestinian state in the United Nations General Assembly. The President of the Republic presents the vision of France to advance on the road to peace in the Middle East. France has taken up its responsibilities by proposing a realistic solution, allowing Palestine to have its status enhanced to that of non-member observer state of the United Nations, in order to advance the international existence of Palestine in the perspective of a two-state solution. This is why France supports the Palestine request to join UNESCO. France is the first European country that has expressly committed to support the Palestinian request. The United Kingdom, France, and Germany issued a joint communique to state their objective remain a definitive settlement agreement and the welcome of the Palestine as a full member of the United Nations in September 2011. The delegation of France proposes some solution for this problem. Better relationships. France-Arab policy must be an essential dimension of its policy exterior, but not only for France, also for the nation-states. The delegation of France wants to give a new impulse, staying true to the aspirations of its initiator, General de Gaulle. Everything orders us, he said, from 1958 to act in Cairo, in Damascus, in Amman, and in all the capitals of the region, in the same way that we have acted in Beirut, as friends and cooperators. This vision continues to guide French politics and policy based on great principles inspired by the particular quality of the relationship that French and Arabs have been engaged for a long time. Second, France considers that Palestine can be an official member of the United Nations if it resolves the conflict by the creation of an independent, viable, and democratic Palestinian state living in peace and security alongside Israel. France has defined with its European partners the parameters that must lead to a resolution of a conflict. Border based on the 1967 lines with approved exchanges of equivalent territories. Security arrangements that preserve the sovereignty of the Palestinian state and guarantee the security of Israel. A fair, equitable, and agreed solution to refugee problem, and an arrangement making Jerusalem the capital of the two states. In its spirit that France has welcomed the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative and its recent reaffirmation. And the last one, recognize Palestine internationally as a state. France has an important country on the international scene to take urgent measures that give Palestinians hope. The delegation of France proposes to recognize the Palestinian state and encourage other countries to do the same. The truth is very simple. The Palestinians have been victims of aggression for 7 years and not the other way around. In addition, a measure of recognition of Palestinian state is more than urgent at this time. This will give hope to a young victim day after day. The delegation is open for a dialogue with the other delegations in order to give a proper solution to this problematic. Thank you.